I recently discovered something about myself that has kind of rocked my world. I deal with anxiety. I have anxiety. I have a lot of anxiety. Maybe this doesn't sound like it's really earth shattering, but it has been for me. And let me tell you why. It's because I never thought that I had anxiety. I would have and have told many people anxiety is something that I don't deal with. And I don't deal with it in the sense that I don't actually do anything useful with it. What happens, and the reason why I never thought that I had anxiety is I have this other thing, which is dissociation, which shuts it down. So let me explain what happens with anxiety. You often feel tightness in your chest. You feel a buzzing in your body. Maybe you feel your heart rate speed up. You feel a little frantic. Maybe there's a lot of other ways you could describe it, but those kind of bodily sensations are something that begin to build up in me. And then this other thing kicks in, which spreads some kind of feel-good chemicals in my body and shuts it down. Well, what that is it's a numbing out. In psychology, they call it DPDR, depersonalization, derealization. And in fact, I found this YouTube channel called the DP Manual, and the guy that authors this channel talks about this idea that depersonalization, derealization is always a downstream effect of anxiety. He really hammers this home. It is always anxiety first and then zone out. And for me, I'm very well aware that I zone out now, which, by the way, I haven't always been. That's also something new that I've discovered. But I didn't know it had anything to do with anxiety because I don't experience full anxiety. I've got this other default trigger that kicks in, and I think it's been there since I was very young. This was something pretty cool for me to understand about myself, that anxiety is a big part of my life, because I've been real big into discovering the work of Dr. Robert Glover. He wrote this book, No More Mr. Nice Guy, and I think it fits me to a T. I think I am a nice guy. My upbringing gave me a mindset that makes me a nice guy. And as you look into this, you understand it's not about being nice versus being mean or anything like that. This book is not trying to teach you how to be an asshole. The idea is that you behave inauthentically. And one of the things that he said, which kind of stuck with me, which never really made sense, is that anxiety is a huge part of nice guys. That didn't make sense because I would have always said, well, I don't have anxiety, so that doesn't make sense. Well, once I got this little unlock from the DP manual talking about how dissociation is always a downstream effect of anxiety, then I started to look at that and be like, is that true? And it is. And I could start to actually feel it coming on. I would have some anxious thought. I'll give you an example. Right now I'm stressed with some financial issues. And when these thoughts and fears start creeping up into my mind, I could actually watch myself, my heart rate spike. I could kind of feel a buzzing in my body, a tightness in my chest. And then I could watch as these feel-good chemicals just spread throughout my body and it shut down. Oftentimes, it's not just purely a physical thing. Something in me gets the idea to distract or to escape. So all of a sudden, I'll say, oh, I'm super hungry. And maybe I'm laying in bed and I've already had dinner. It doesn't make any sense. And it'll be like, oh, no, I'm super hungry. So I'll run downstairs and make some food and shove my face. Or one of my most common is actually watching YouTube videos. I love YouTube, but oftentimes I use it as pure distraction and escapism. You know, I'll be watching videos about aliens or something, and this is when I should be doing something else. I'm procrastinating something that's really important. So that kind of escapism and distraction is often a sign that I am dissociated. All right, so I almost didn't want to make this video because I don't have strong solutions for what to do about this yet. But that's not the point of this channel. The point of this channel is to try to get out what I'm actually going through, what I'm learning as I go, what progress I'm making. And the realization in and of itself is progress. I need to be able to feel my feelings. That's what I'm aware of right now. I don't know how to feel my feelings, not the negative ones anyway. All right, so it's a major breakthrough for me to find out that anxiety is a part of my life and something that I'm dealing with. The reason is because I have been aware for some time now that dissociation is something that I'm dealing with, but there is not a lot of good information out there for what to do if you are dissociated or if you slip into dissociation, which is something I do automatically, unconsciously, without even being aware of it. But anxiety, there's a lot of information out there about anxiety, and there's a lot of different ways to attack it. And so I can lean on a breadth of available knowledge about anxiety to actually help me from ever getting in the state where I'm zoned out or numbed out to begin with. I'm going to take a brief aside and just talk about how I think that I got to this point, just in case anybody connects with that. It has to do with the idea of attunement. And attunement is something that happens between a caregiver and a child. And Heidi Priebe, who is here on YouTube and somebody that I'm a huge fan of, gives a great description of attunement in a video that she put out there talking about learning self-regulation through self-attunement. This is cool. Like I said, attunement is something that happens between two people, but you can do self-attunement. And in fact, you kind of have to do self-attunement if you're in the case like I am, a full-grown adult who's struggling with regulation. And by the way, that's what it is when I zone out or I dissociate. I am dysregulated, to use the psychological term. So here's her talking about how attunement is supposed to happen, and this is really useful to understand.
Attunement is the process of tuning into what's going on for someone else and allowing our internal state to react to their state. So if you have a child and the child starts crying, the secure parent might pick the child up and they're going to see, oh, my baby's in distress. And maybe they'll make kind of a sad face back at the baby and rock it a little bit and soothe it until it calms down. But that baby is going to see initially that their inner state is mirrored in the parent's face, right? When the parent kind of gives them a sympathetic look, they're showing to the baby, I see your pain, I'm acknowledging it, and now I'm going to help you soothe it. That's attunement. When we are able to identify what someone else is feeling, reflect it back to them accurately, and make that connection with them. A lot of how insecure attachment forms is when parents are not adequately attuned to their infants. So let's say every time you're sad as a baby, your parent, who might not have a high threshold for tolerating sadness in themselves, might pick you up and put a huge smile on their face and try to rock you back and forth and convince you that nothing's wrong and that you feel great. That parent, though they are well-meaning, is not necessarily attuned to you properly. Therefore, you're going to grow up with a sense of confusion about your own internal states. Are you happy or are you sad? Because we learn who we are through our parents helping us make sense of our emotions very early on in life. So an attuned parent helps their child understand themselves in a very straightforward and true way. But an unattuned parent distorts the child's experience of what's happening for them internally, and they get confused.
Yeah, it's really important.
When this was our early experience, often the problem is that we don't know how to attune properly to our own internal states as adults. So if you think of yourself as kind of the observing self, so the part of yourself that's able to be mindful and notice what's going on for you, and the experiencing self, so the self that reacts to things physiologically before you have the chance to understand or to become conscious of those reactions, you can kind of think of yourself as two different parts. Right? Emotions arise in the body before they arise in the conscious mind. So we don't always get a lot of choice about how we're feeling, but we do get a choice about how we will deal with and process the feelings that do come up for us. So let's say you have an avoidant attachment style. Avoidantly attached people are very biased towards thinking that if my emotion does not make sense, I must be wrong about the emotion, right? So if I don't think that it makes sense for me to be angry in a certain situation, but my body feels kind of angry and agitated, I might attribute it falsely to something else and go, oh, well, I just had too much coffee today. Or, oh, I just need to get a little bit more exercise.
Yeah, so this is really interesting. She talks about how if you miss this early kind of attunement and regulation through the eyes of a caregiver, you don't really learn how to process emotions appropriately. And that was absolutely the case for me. I think my parents were just very overwhelmed, and were probably not attuned by their parents. I don't think on either side, based on what I know about my grandparents on both sides, I don't think either of their parents knew how to attend to their children in that way, be there for them. So if you grow up with a retarded sense of, and I mean that word exactly as it's meant to be, a retarded sense of how to attune and how to process your emotions, how to be with your emotions, then you don't know that it's okay. And so I relied on logic my whole life. And so when I have some emotion, I think my body feels it first, and then it checks in with my brain, and my brain says, there's no reason to be upset, anxious, angry, fearful, whatever. And And so my brain tells my body, yeah, we're not feeling that. That's usually what happens. Or like she says, it does blame it on something else. It comes up with some other logical reason why. But it's all logic, and logic and feelings are not the same. One thing that Heidi Priebe says is that if you're feeling a feeling, you're feeling a feeling. And there's no logic about it. An intolerance of negative feelings like anxiety is your brain telling your body, nah, we're not going to do that. And this just creates a whole host of problems. I'm working with a therapist right now, and one of the things that I put out there is a vision statement. And one of the things, well, what I kicked off my vision statement with was saying that I want to live my life fully, to feel and experience all that life has to offer. And I'm starting to realize that in order to live my life fully, I have to feel my feelings fully. Feeling your feelings is important. It's important for everything. It's important for just living fully, for experiencing life. So in Scott Peck, who wrote the book, The Road Less Traveled, says something really cool. He said that if parents are meeting their own needs and are attentive to their children, responding to their children's needs in a timely, judicious, and consistent way, children at a young age emotionally internalize a belief that I am valuable, I am lovable, and my needs are important, and the world is like my family. Wow. I don't think I grew up with any of those. The idea that I am lovable, apart from my association with the family or my adherence to the Christian faith, that I am valuable, same, that my needs are important. I think that was never the question. It was always, what are you doing for the family and for God? And that the world is like my family. Well, if the world is like my family, then yeah, emotions don't matter. You just do what you're supposed to do. I don't think my parents were attuned. As such, my siblings weren't attuned. There was no one to talk to or to mirror off of. So I just internalized shutting down parts of me. And I think it's really messed up a lot. And I think when you shut down parts of yourself, you're always trying to hide and present to the world something that's not authentic. You don't even know yourself. I don't even know myself. That's what happens. You start out as a kid that way, and you end up with an adult that doesn't know what they want. They don't know themselves. I think a lot of people get this wrong. They think that people are being inauthentic because they are afraid that someone's going to find out who the real them is, and the real them is not good enough. That's not what it is. It's that I don't know the real me. And this sounds crazy to a lot of people out there. But if you're on the inside of it and you just never learned these lessons, you never learned how to feel your feelings, you don't know who you are. And that produces nice guys and nice girls. And I think feeling your feelings is key to living life fully. I wish I had solutions. I'm going to link Heidi Priebe's video below and just let you know that I am working on this. I've had some great conversations with ChatGPT where it talks about going through a lot of processes to build this internalized way of self-attunement, which includes things like micro self-recognition. Like if you do something that is really good, tell yourself, the lighting you set up in your living room is beautiful, or you make a playlist of music and you could tell yourself, man, this playlist feels like me. This feels good. It doesn't sound from the outside like this is going to do anything, and I'm still skeptical, but I also haven't done this. I don't know what it takes to build in these missing ingredients that were supposed to be built into my whole being from an early age, and they weren't. But I'm just going to be working on this. And some other ideas were, admiration out loud. If you have a good idea, say out loud, that's a great idea. Talking to yourself. If you did something well, tell yourself, you handled that beautifully. I'm going to be working on it, but I just wanted to post this video and tell you about these realizations that I've had. Best of luck, and let me know if I can help.